Somewhere over the rainbow, bluebirds fly, and the dreams that you dream of, dreams really do come true.
Walking around Ladera Ranch reminds me how it started, and that was with my father. He was an urban planner in the 1950s and 60s, and we called him the small town doctor of urban planning. He would drive around all these little small towns in the Midwest, around Kansas City, and he would do what they couldn't do, and that is do their general plans and zoning codes and all those things that small towns needed back then. And I would ride with him. So that planted the seed to when we got to communities like Ladera Ranch, and we were challenged by, how do we create better neighborhood? Well, the answer was creating kind of a hybrid approach. We took the principles of new urbanism, which were being practiced around the country, but were pretty hard to implement without high cost and taking a lot of time. And we meshed those with sort of principles of merchant building and high velocity development.
It was a time when master plans were looking for a change. What could you do to bring them into a new world to be more authentic? And Steve worked with this company, myself, our architects, to really put together a kit of tools that we eventually coined neighborhood crafting. And basically neighborhood crafting was focusing on that the neighborhood over time only got better. So it was a good ride. Ladera Ranch was a wonderful testing ground that proved a lot of valuable concepts that we carry forward today, and I think have been imitated across the country.
People give me a hard time about my acronyms that I create. There's SIM, Sustainable Systems Integration Model. There's STEP, Site Target Evaluation Program. And I guess those come from just creating complicated things that nobody really wants to say the name of them, so we create shortcuts.
Steve and the team have applied Steve's methodology and model called SIM, the Sustainable System Integration Method, to projects worldwide. What this does, it allows us to model energy, water, waste, transportation systems, and ecological systems comprehensively to achieve the greatest bang for the buck, or to achieve a carbon footprint reduction that's many times required in an approval process for a project.
An important contribution made by Steve during his tenure at the Irvine Company was the development of the Site Target Evaluation Process, or STEP process, which was a software model designed to help us rapidly evaluate sites for redevelopment. The STEP process was really a filtering process that could take thousands of sites in a city or region and narrow it down to a smaller number of sites that met key criteria predetermined by the company. Those sites would then be evaluated by our acquisitions team for further development.
We've done this for a long years. We've done it for a lot of classes. We've done it for, I think, 17 classes. Steve and I worked on the comp, and he's been working on helping students for even longer than that. And I think that it's an impressive amount of number of students who are now graduates of the program who are out being professional, being largely very successful professionals. And I think we might attribute a lot of that to their ability to think well about design. And I think that Steve has played a major role in helping shape the way real estate professionals think about design.
One of the things I've been most excited about is the people and the clients I've worked with. Richard Reese was one of my original mentors who helped me so much over the years. And he had a saying, and it was, a consultant is only as good as his client.
Our friend Richard Reese invited us each independently to a party, and then that's when I learned that Steve was involved with the master plan community of Rancho Santa Margarita, and I was the president of the escrow company.
So I started it out and she finished it up.
We've been married 25 years. We have one daughter, Katie, who is 17. And there's actually a Katie Rose Lane here in Ladera Ranch. We've really enjoyed introducing the world to her and exploring it ourselves. And I think it gives us a unique perspective how we can appreciate where we live and what our community offers to us.
Another big part of our life is Striped Rock, and that's our parallel live. that when we need to get away from the pressure cooker, we go up there and we sit on our deck and look out over the preserve, and it just makes us whole people by being there.
My wife Anna and I, back in the early 2000s, were looking for a family retreat. At the time, I was speaking with Steve, and he mentioned this conservation development he was working on. He invited us up to go visit. We fell in love with what he was doing. It turns out he wasn't really developing, he was actually enhancing the land. Striped Rock provided a new model that actually avoided rural sprawl.
It's fun for me to be a consultant because I get to work with the best in the business, a lot of different companies, and take what I've learned and developed on projects like Ladera and Verado and Valencia and share those, with other large developments in the United States and around the world. It gives me a great sense of making a major contribution.
Ladies and gentlemen, it is my distinct honor to introduce Steve Kellenburg.
Well, first of all, I would like to thank the California Home Building Foundation for this honor and the privilege to be here. Thank you to my wife, Tony, and my daughter, Katie, for their love and support. I feel a bit like the stranger in the strange land, being inducted into the Home Building Hall of Fame with all of you, as I have a slightly different calling. Other inductees have been builders and land developers, and I'm a planner. I look back on the 250 plus recipients of this award and couldn't find a single pure land planner. Lots of architects who also planned, but not one with this as their singular profession. I wondered why, and then saw the obvious. This is a builders group. Perhaps I'm in the wrong room. But then I thought maybe you all saw something that was important, that the context you build within is important, that it takes more than well-placed sticks and bricks to optimize value and create something more than a house, a home. I apologize for being a bit sanctimonious, but let's look at it. I've worked with Paul Johnson at Rancho Mission Viejo on and off for over 3, maybe 4 decades. Many moons ago, we discussed the difference between a typical large-scale home builder and what we called a community builder. Both were essential in a so-called perfect economy, but the community builder had a slightly different focus, a focus on the less tangible aspects of community. Those hard-to-identify components that create a different feeling, more complex character, sense of authenticity, and less mass-produced. In the end, it came down to building a more memorable place, one that encourages neighbor-to-neighbor interaction and engagement with the community. Why should we care? Well, studies have shown at a very crude level, the market falls into 3 groups. At one end, those that care most about house and getting the best value per square foot. At the other, those that cared most about community and neighborhood, the so-called good house in a great community versus a great house in a good community. And of course, those in the middle for which the character of community mattered, but it was only one of multiple drivers. Well, Paul and I figured that if most of the market focused on the first 2, a great market opportunity existed on the last, the segment focused most on community. The teams I led practiced this philosophy for 40 years with the support of great developers such as RMV and DMB, and as others did in other parts of the country, including those that practiced the new urbanism. Did it work? Well, we took a look at the first phase of Ladera Ranch after it was built and compared the additional cost required to support neighborhood crafting. That is smaller tracks, integrated product, pocket parks, architectural variety, authenticity, front porches, recessed garages, increased trail networks, all of those things that are part of neighborhood crafting. Compared the cost with the delta in resale value to surrounding comps and found an impressive double-digit return on investment. Now, of course, those were resales, but it proved the thesis. And we know that delta could be captured in later phases of the project in its initial pricing. You saw in the video I have pursued a variety of interests. motivated by an idea I picked up in graduate school from Hideo Sasaki, a famous urban designer who founded the firm by the same name. And he said a true professional has three spheres: practice, research, and teaching. I have worked hard in all three, as you might have noticed, but my contribution to creating real community, turning large-scale development into a nurturing environment that Maslow, the famous sociologist, defined as the self-actualized community, a place where people can achieve the highest expression of their own human potential, is the one effort I treasure most. Thank you.